Golovkin International Media Conference Call. My name is Cynthia, and I will be your operator for today's call. At this time, all participants are in a listen-only mode. Later, we will conduct a question-and-answer session. During the question-and-answer session, if you have a question, please press star, then 1 on your touch-tone phone. Please note that this conference is being recorded. I will now turn the call over to Fred Sternberg. Fred, you may begin.
Thank you, Cynthia. On behalf of GGG Promotions and Golden Boy, HBO Pay-Per-View, and all our great sponsors, we are less than 3 weeks away from the fight we've been waiting years for. It's finally here, and boy, everyone can't wait. The main event is going to be the World Middleweight Championship. Defending champion Gennady Triple G Golovkin is on the phone with us today. He'll be answering questions about training camp and his expectations going into September 16 for the big pay-per-view. That'll be at T-Mobile Arena. We also have his Hall of Fame trainer, Abel Sanchez, and his promoter, Tom Loeffler, on the phone to answer questions. And without any delay, it's my pleasure to introduce to you Tom Loeffler, who will introduce both Abel and Gennady. Tom?
Thank you, Fred. Boy, we couldn't be more excited about this fight coming up September 16th. As Fred mentioned, it's really the fight for not only the middleweight supremacy but boxing supremacy. The winner of this fight with these two champions, world-class fighters, the best middleweights in the world, there really be. I think the winner is really going to be considered the best fighter in the sport of boxing. We had a tremendous kickoff. Media day on Monday at LA Live, where we had over 3,000 fans there, tons of media. I mean, the interest for this fight now is really reaching a fevered pitch. We'd like to thank HBO. Had a tremendous debut of 24/7 last Saturday after the Cotto fight. The Under the Lights show will be premiering this Saturday. And then the second episode, which everyone's eagerly awaiting, will be after September 9th, when Chocolatito takes on Rungvisai in their rematch on the Superfly show. So that will be September 9th will be the second episode of 24/7. It's been a tremendous training camp. I know Abel's really pleased at how everything is going. I'll just put on Abel to say a few words, and then we can get straight into the questions for Triple G, for Abel or myself.
Thank you very much, Tom. Thank you very much to all the media that's tuned in. We're having a great training camp as always. We've been in camp since July the 1st, and probably by fight time we'll have 2 months and a couple weeks. So we're looking forward to a good fight, to a difficult fight, obviously, but that's the way all these fights at this level should be. Thank you very much for tuning in, and we'll wait for some questions.
Gennady, before we open up for questions, any comments? How's camp going, and how do you feel with this fight finally coming up? We're only 2 weeks away, 2.5 weeks.
Yes, I feel great. Yeah, good morning, everybody. I'm very excited for this fight. Yeah, I have, you're right, like a couple weeks, like 2 weeks. My weight is good. I feel good. Everything is good. I'm okay. I'm ready.
Well, if you're okay, we're okay. Cynthia, why don't we give instructions on how to ask questions and open it up for the queue?
Thank you. If you have a question, please press star, then 1 on your touch-tone phone. If you wish to be removed from the queue, please press the pound sign or the hash key. If you are using a speakerphone, you may need to pick up the handset first before pressing the numbers. And once again, if you have a question, please press star, then 1 on your touch-tone phone. And our first question comes from Dan Rafael with ESPN. You may begin.
Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. I want to start with a question with Abel. Hey, Abel.
Good morning, Dan. How are you?
I'm doing great. As the trainer for Gennady, I'd like to hear your perspective on just basically how Gennady has been as far as like his excitement level, because I know how much he's wanted this fight. And I think you've wanted this fight for quite a while. Is there like an additional spring in his step as he gets ready for the fight that he's really wanted compared to some of the other ones that were maybe not as anticipated as this? And could you describe what you see in him?
Absolutely. There's been a a sparkle in his eye. But it's not so much just because of this fight. It could have been any big name fight that was out there. Just so happens that this is the one that was made, that was able to be made. He's just been a little frustrated the last couple of years that he hasn't had that marquee name to step up and want to fight him. The names go on. But happy that it is finally here. It's 2.5 weeks away, and couldn't be more excited myself or him. Like I said, he's sparkle in his eye is a little bit different than it has been. And that's exciting for me because I know we're going to get a great fight.
When this fight is over, and if Gennady is victorious, what do you think that will mean for the way he's remembered in boxing? Because a lot of people see he has this great record, great knockout streak, but it lacks for star power in terms of the names on the record.
Well, I think that Canelo fighting Mayweather a couple of years ago, whatever that was, I think Sampson as a bona fide elite fighter, let's just say, if Golovkin, or when Golovkin does to him on the 16th, what I think he's going to do to him, it'll stamp Golovkin as a superstar because I think it's going to dominate him and do what Floyd couldn't do. The 16th is a pivotal period, a pivotal day in Gennady's career, and I think how people are going to remember it. But we still have the 16th to go, so hopefully after the fight I'm telling you the same thing.
All right, great. Abel, thank you. I also had a couple of questions for Gennady. Hey, Gennady.
Hi, Dan. Good morning.
Good morning to you. Piggybacking on what I asked Abel about, can you describe to me what you think a victory would mean for your legacy in boxing? Because you've got a lot of wins, a lot of knockouts, as I said. You had that great knockout streak. But for a variety of reasons, you have yet to get the opportunity to face one of the true superstars in boxing until this point. So what would that mean for the way you're remembered?
It's huge. It's huge for me. No, right now maybe I'm not the same type of fan. And seriously, right now I want to fight. I want to win fight because it's maybe, for me this win maybe like a history fight. This fight like Leonardo Hagler, like that. Nobody close. In middleweight division, they say, I believe fighting position come back. And Canelo, he's very special guy, and very special guy. I'm champion. Right now for us it's huge, and special for me it's huge.
Can you just describe, as I asked Abel about, you've prepared yourself and always been in great shape for your fights, but sometimes they were fights that everybody sort of expected you to win very easily. I think this fight is a fight that there's a division that people think you're going to win, and some people think that Canelo Alvarez is going to win. So just give me your perspective on finally being in a fight that there's some doubt in, that people think, hey, maybe the other guy might win, and how excited you are for that kind of competition.
I mean, Dan, I can jump in on that. This is definitely the closest odds of any fight that Gennady's been involved in, and I think that's what makes this so intriguing. Is that 50% of the people think Canelo's going to win, and 50% of the people think Gennady's going to win, and that's where I think the outcome is definitely in doubt, and it makes it that much bigger event. Gennady can add to that if he wants.
Tom, do you have an opinion about what it would mean for the way people look back at, his career's not over, obviously, but the way they remember, his legacy? Everybody needs that one big victory to kind of stamp themselves as a true great.
100%. As Gennady said, this is a legacy fight for him. He's had so many knockouts in his career. He holds the highest knockout percentage of the middleweight division. If there's any criticism that people have of Gennady is the level of competition, but they have to look at the opponents, not at Gennady. We've had a terrible time getting people in the ring with them, and that's why we had respect for all the people that had gotten in the ring with him previously. But this is clearly, Canelo's a proven pay-per-view star. The event is sold out in Vegas. Gennady brings his fan base. This just brings, the sum of both fighters is much bigger than themselves individually. So both from an international level and just a competition level. And I think a win September 16th definitely puts that stamp on Gennady's career. Look, if he beats Daniel Jacobs in March and then beats Canelo Alvarez in September, I mean, I don't know too many fighters that have a better year than that.
All right, very good. Thank you, Abel and Triple G. And Tom, appreciate your time.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you, Dan.
And our next question comes from Dylan Hernandez with the Los Angeles Times. You may begin.
Hi, Gennady. I just wanted a 24/7, the first episode of that, and I know you talked there about, the first part of your career, what you spent over in Europe, and kind of being frustrated that, your career wasn't going the way you wanted, that you weren't getting the fight that you wanted. When you came over to the United States, and you kind of got like a second go at it, so to speak, how confident were you that it was going to lead to something like this?
Right now it's a different time for me. I feel right now it's very comfortable, a long time ago, my dream was coming to the United States, fight in the United States. Now my position is huge, my family, everybody support me, respect my team, and respect my promotion, Right now, my dream is real.
Dylan, this is the fight that we've been working for. I mean, every fight in Gennady's career, really since he made his HBO debut September 12th, this is almost 5 years to the day, and every fight since then, this is really the fight that we've been working for. It would have been great if he had this type of a fight earlier in his career, but as I mentioned, the other name opponents weren't, or the other champions even weren't willing to get in the ring with him. And now that Canelo has agreed, this is really all the knockouts, all the training, all the hard work, all the sacrifice that Gennady's made has been built towards this exact fight in his career.
And Tom, one question for you. So when Gennady comes to you, obviously he's not, a 22-year-old, 23-year-old prospect. You're dealing with kind of a limited amount of time. What was kind of your blueprint, I guess, to get him to this point? Obviously, I know you've taken, him back east to maybe try to, expand his foothold out there. What was kind of the plan to get him to this point?
Well, the blueprint was, when we met with HBO, we said Gennady would fight anyone. They had a list of 20 fighters, 20 names of different fighters, anywhere from 154 to 168, and Abel and Gennady didn't turn down any one of those, and that was that blew HBO away. They've never been used to someone willing to fight everyone, and they realized, if there wasn't a fight that was able to be made, it wasn't on the Triple G side. I was very transparent with all the negotiations, everyone that we reached out to, and the first step was, Madison Square Garden took a very strong interest in Triple G, and he had 2 fights at the theater. He sold out those fights, and then we moved to the big room in Madison Square Garden. So that was really the plan, is to build him in New York City at Madison Square Garden. Then when he came over here to the StubHub Center in L.A., he broke the attendance record. So that was the blueprint, not to build him in small casinos, that were obscure, that really didn't bring the type of media attention, because I knew with someone of Gennady's talent and his pedigree and just his willingness to fight, that we needed to build him in the biggest markets. And a lot of people are surprised, after he's fought in 7 countries and 22 different cities, that this will be the first time he's fighting in Las Vegas. But this is really that type of event, that type of crown jewel event to make his debut in Las Vegas. And we see the fan reaction, all the fans coming in internationally to come see him fight, both supporting him and supporting Canelo. And we followed the blueprint. Naturally, I had all these plans outside the ring, and Abel had his plans as far as the training. But if Gennady didn't perform inside the ring, the best laid plans wouldn't have happened. So Gennady had to perform in the ring. He always was an exciting fight. And that led his performances in the ring, and all the hard work outside the ring led to building this fight right now.
All right, thanks so much, guys, and best of luck on the 16th.
Thanks, John.
Thank you. Bye.
And our next question comes from George Willis with the New York Post. You may begin.
Hello, gentlemen. How you doing?
Hey, George.
First of all, I wanted to get Gennady's reaction to Conor McGregor's comment that he wasn't very impressed with either Canelo or Triple G. He called them a bit boring and flat-footed. So I wanted to get Gennady's reaction to that.
It's not correct, too. Because, McGregor, he's not a boxer. That's the reaction. It's not surprising. Nothing.
Abel, do you have any reaction to that?
I think you have to consider the source. You're talking about a guy that has never fought an amateur fight, never been in the ring with an elite fighter, commenting on something that he knows nothing about.
Mm-hmm. All right, Tom, I wanted to ask you, with that other fight over, do you think it actually is bringing more attention to this fight because, this is what everybody is saying is the quote-unquote real fight?
I think so, George. Look, that had a tremendous amount of attention to the fight. Just to be clear, I think from the Triple G side and the team, we're certainly not negative about Conor McGregor. I think just the fact of what he's accomplished in the UFC, he's clearly the most marketable fighter that they've had, and he's shown a lot of tremendous heart in the fights that he's had. It's just Gennady is a purist, and he didn't look at that as a true boxing match. It'd be the same thing as if Floyd went into the octagon. I'd be willing to bet that Conor lasted a lot longer in the boxing ring than Floyd would have in the octagon. So we don't want to be negative on either Conor or on the event, but I think it definitely brought a lot of mainstream attention to that event, and then we're just working on capitalizing on that momentum, and the boxing fans realize that this is the true fight, the true boxing match with the two best fighters in the middleweight division, and I think that's what the real boxing fans are looking forward to.
And what does it say that your event is sold out, and theirs was, I think, 14,000 and change? Do you think that was all pricing, or is there some other message in there?
Well, I think it was pricing. Clearly, there was a huge demand for tickets for their event, but I don't know. I wasn't involved in that event. I don't know the internal workings on it, but from the outside, I heard that the tickets were extremely highly priced, and I think maybe some of the UFC fans that were used to much lower prices for some of their biggest events weren't willing to pay those higher prices. That's the only thing I can attribute it to. It wasn't for lack of attention, because they certainly got, you saw the Irish fans in Las Vegas and everything like that. It probably would have just been a component of overpricing the tickets as opposed to the people that were willing to afford to pay those prices.
Mm-hmm. And is this the kind of matchup that can make, both of these fighters pay-per-view stars in the realm of, getting 800,000 to 1 million buys consistently?
I think so. I really think building on with the numbers that Canelo did 1 million buys against Chavez, and you see the fan base that Gennady brings. I think they complement each other perfectly. I mean, Canelo has, his fans, his diehard fans that are going to buy his pay-per-view fights, buy the tickets, and then when you add that component, this is the first time that Gennady has fought someone that actually has a more established name, especially on the pay-per-view side than he has. So before, it seemed like he was always carrying the promotions. When we couldn't get one of the bigger names or one of some of the biggest champions in the ring with him, and now this fight with Canelo, now we'll see how much bigger of an event this will be, where Gennady brings his fan base. He sold out I think the last 7 arenas that he's fought at, and that's from New York to London to LA. Every time he fought, he had a sold out arena, and then you bring in Canelo, who had over 50,000 people at Cowboy Stadium against Liam Smith. When you bring these two marketing forces, not only the important thing here, George, is not only are these the two best boxers in the division, but two of the most marketable fighters in the sport of boxing, and I think that's what really makes this a very unique event. You don't have that type of matchup very often in the sport.
Great. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, George.
Thank you.
And our next question comes from Bernard Fernandez with the Sweet Science. You may begin.
Yeah, this question is for Gennady. If successful, this will be his 19th middleweight title defense. The record is held by Bernard Hopkins with 20. Obviously, that's within range. People thought that might last for a very long time. Bernard Hopkins is an executive with Golden Boy, which has Canelo. How much would setting that record mean to Gennady, to you, Gennady? And also, the second part of that question is, have you ever imagined how you would fare prime on prime against some of the great middleweights in history, specifically Hopkins, but also guys like Carlos Monzon and Marvin Hagler?
Right now there's not big interest for me to see Bernard record. Yeah, Bernard, he's huge fight. He's huge champion. He's story. In the middleweight division, this long story. I don't know. I remember a lot of great champions. Yeah, right. Like Carlos Monzon, Sugar Leonard, Marvin Hagler, Bernard Hopkins. Right now I think new story, new time for us. For me it is huge. Absolutely, to say long time in middleweight division, in big champion, is huge.
Abel, could I ask you the same question? I mean, Gennady is approaching historical milestones. Where do you think he would rate on the all-time list of great middleweight champions?
I don't think he's ever really contemplated how he was going to feel or breaking Bernard's record. He respects Bernard a heck of a lot. But obviously we have been in the business a long time, you and I and Tom, and we know that all these records were meant to be broken. It just Bernard's seemed like it was unreachable. Gennady, on a pace that he's going, could end up with 5-6 more wins in the middleweight division. So it would be historical. As far as how he would fare, it's a different era. I think that Carlos Monzon was a great fighter, so was Sugar Ray Robinson, so was all those guys in their era. I think that everybody has an era. I don't know how he would have fared against those guys. I would have liked to have seen him fight Bernard in his prime, because I think Bernard, or even Roy Jones in his prime, because I think those were, that I remember that I saw, physically saw myself, so those were great fighters. But hopefully this era will be Golovkin's era, as Roy and Bernard had theirs.
One last question, and this is for Gennady or whoever wants to jump in on it. We just had a situation where, for the first time since Bernard Hopkins and Jermaine Taylor were the only two people since the late 1980s to hold all four of the titles, including the WBO. Terrence Crawford just accomplished that. After this, would going after that one missing title that Gennady now held by Billy Joe Saunders, I mean, would that be a priority? I mean, how important is having all the titles to him?
Go ahead, Tom.
Bernard, maybe I can jump in on my side. Ever since Gennady won the WBA middleweight championship, and he was the undefeated WBA middleweight champion, the Olympic silver medalist, he's wanted to fight the best in the division. That's the only way he could prove that he was the best, not only in the middleweight division, but one of the best in the sport of boxing. And it was just so hard at the time. When Felix Sturm was considered one of the top middleweights in the world, and he was the mandatory for 2 years. Sturm did everything he could to avoid that fight. Then when Sergio Martinez was considered the best middleweight, and Gennady would have loved a matchup between to unify his WBA title with Sergio's WBC title. Unfortunately, Sergio chose to fight Cotto at the time, which then Cotto lost to Canelo. So it's been very difficult getting other champions to agree. We have a lot of respect for David Lemieux. As soon as he won the IBF title, he agreed to fight Triple G, but I think the other champions saw that and saw the 8-round domination of one of the biggest punchers in the middleweight division, another champion, and it makes it hard to make those fights. I mean, Terrence Crawford, I give him a lot of credit where he unified the title, but I think fighting a guy that had 2 titles and was willing to fight him for a reasonable amount of money. I mean, when we talk to Saunders, I mean, you're talking about telephone numbers that he wants just to get in the ring with him. And if you're confident, Gennady, there was an old story where his managers were negotiating with Eddie Hearn to come to England, and all they wanted was some tickets and a logo on the mat. When you're a confident champion, you don't ask for those astronomical numbers if you really think you can win the fight. If you think you're going to lose the fight or you think you're going to get knocked out, then that's when people start pricing themselves out, and that's what's made it so difficult to unify the division. And that's why I think this fight with Canelo, look, if Gennady looks good against Canelo and performs the way we all believe he'll perform, then it opens up a lot of doors. Then he's in a whole different financial realm in terms of the monies that we're able to offer people. But if you can't get the other champions to fight, then you can't unify the titles, and that's the situation that we've been faced the last 6 years.
Well, the thing you said about HBO, you all did you agree to all 20 names? A lot of those guys have ducked Gennady. I presume that a victory in this fight, not just because of the money, but all roads would have to go through him. I mean, maybe the people that ducked him before would have no choice, but if they want to do anything, but to go to him, right?
No, that's true. And like I said, I think if he's victorious September 16th, he'll be. Canelo is still considered the Ring Magazine and lineal middleweight champion. So there's still some people out there that think Canelo should be rated above Triple G. So I think after this fight, there'll be no question. The winner of this fight will absolutely be, if Canelo wins, he'll be considered the best middleweight. And if Gennady wins, he'll be considered the best middleweight. And again, probably one of the best in the entire sport. If Triple G is successful, then I think it'll open up a lot of doors. And I think, people, they'll really have no excuse at that point to not to fight him. And I think that's where Gennady's career is going to be defined. Is not the first part of his career. I think with the Jacobs fight, then the Canelo fight, and then what happens afterwards. I think that's how his career is going to be defined as a middleweight champion.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks, Bernard.
Thank you, Bernard.
And our next question comes from Sarah Deming with HBO Digital. You may begin.
Hi, gentlemen.
Hello.
Good morning.
Hi.
Good morning.
Hi. Thanks for taking the time. Gennady, I'm writing about your coach right now, and I want to know when the bell rings and the fight starts, what words of Abel's do you have in your mind, or what advice from him is there?
I don't know.
Hello, Gennady.
What does he usually say to you before a round begins, Gennady?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Patience. For me, patience.
Patience?
Yeah.
Patience.
Abel, is that basically the gist?
Usually, yes. That's that, and I may say whatever it is that we discussed right prior in the dressing room about what we wanted to do. But most of it is patience, because actually the first fight that I ever worked with him was a fight in Panama where he got a little wild on me, and he knocked the guy in the first round, but he got a little more wild than I wanted him to do. So when he came back to the corner, that was my chastising him. That was I was scolding him for that. And so every time that we're in the beginning of a fight, I always say patience. Patient. Just be patient. Go out there and see. That's why you see him going out there and analyzing the first round. Really doesn't do that much, and analyzing until he gets his distance and he gets the idea what the other guy's going to do, and that comes because he's patient and just looking forward to opportunities.
That's great. And Gennady, I'm wondering what's different about Abel than other trainers you had in Kazakhstan?
Wow.
when you think of what Abel taught you the most, something that he did.
Different times, different guides, different everything. More professional, professional style, very different, like amateur, everything. Different age, weather, food.
Okay.
Different, completely different.
Gennady's really, just to jump in there, Gennady's had the best of both worlds, where, the Kazakh amateur program is one of the best programs in the world, where he had that real solid foundation. I think that's where a lot of his discipline and, the sacrifice that he goes through, I think that came from the Kazakh amateur program. And he had a lot of punching power, just kind of a natural punching power. He had a lot of knockouts in the amateurs, but then when he got to Abel's gym and then Abel's philosophy and his training, really training in the Mexican style, Abel was able to add a more professional style to Gennady, where he's one of the best of cutting off the ring and putting constant pressure on his opponents, and that's where, either they're knocked out by one shot or they're just worn down, as we've seen in some of the fights. They just can't take the constant pressure, and I think what Abel was able to build on an already established fighter in the amateurs and the pros, I think it's just taken Gennady's career to a completely different level.
Abel, how long did it take for you to transfer him into a Mexican-style fighter, and what did that take?
I think it's an ongoing process, but I think going on what Tom said too, I don't think there's enough. Sometimes there's not enough credit given to what they bring us. We're lucky that we're in the position to be able to develop them after, but if we don't get that good foundation, and the Kazakh system is known in the last 15 years for creating great amateur fighters. But if they give us that foundation, it's a lot easier for us to continue to develop a more TV-friendly kind of style. It's an ongoing, to answer your question, Fred, it's an ongoing thing. But I think when he first, after the first 4 or 5 fights, he started to understand what his role was inside the ring. To be able to sell and to be able to give Tom and Herman Brothers the ability to be able to market him. We have to do that inside the ring, and they do it outside. But if we don't give them something to market, then it's impossible for them to do their job.
Abel, is it hard to teach a fighter patience who has that killer instinct?
It's hard to teach a fighter patience that wants to just fight, a natural fighter that just wants to fight. But being prepared and having those times in the gym where going into a fight that you're in the best shape you could ever be, mentally and physically, it's a lot easier because you're not in a hurry to do anything. You know that the time will come when that opportunity will present itself and you're ready. But also, I go back to the Kazakh system with 350 amateur fights and the success he had as an amateur. There's nothing he hasn't seen. There's no style he hasn't seen. There's no size he hasn't seen. There's no shape. So it's easier to be patient when there's nothing that can surprise you.
That's great. And Tom, I have one last question. Tom, can you comment on the importance of Abel and his training and his legacy to the brand of Triple G from a business perspective?
Well, I think what Abel brings to the table. Abel's had many world champions in the past. It's just now with the success of Triple G, where he's getting the recognition and the accolades of Trainer of the Year. I think the last 2 years he's received that award. But Abel's training system. Abel just brings that calmness in the corner, but the value he adds to Gennady's career is the fact that he's instilled in Gennady, look, you need to put on a show for the fans. You need to put on an entertaining fight, so the fans that buy the tickets, the fans that tune into HBO or buy the pay-per-view, they feel like they've gotten their money's worth. And Gennady is not one of those fighters that dances around the ring for 12 rounds and then tries to collect a paycheck. He wants to put on entertainment. The fans that come to the arena or tune in on TV to his fights, they know there's going to be an exciting fight. He's never been in a dull fight, regardless of which style he's fought. Gennady Golovkin's never been in a dull fight, and that's what the fans, that's what the box office draw that Abel has created out of Gennady. Naturally, Abel having his Mexican heritage and being able to teach Gennady some Spanish words and things like that, that just brings a whole different level to Gennady's career. But I think it's just the fact that he's created such a entertaining style and entertaining fighter, and that's allowed us on the marketing and promotional side to highlight what Gennady's accomplished in the ring.
Great. Thank you so much for your time, gentlemen, and good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And our next question comes from Sean Krause with Boxing Insider. You may begin.
Hi, how are you? This question is just for GGG. Champ, I have a question for you. You become very popular when you fought in Southern California. I'm wondering, though, how's it going to be now knowing that you are not going to be the most popular fighter entering the ring? Is this going to have an effect on you at all, or is it something you've prepared for?
Yeah, probably in Las Vegas.
Wait, okay.
It's interesting. In LA, maybe for me. In New York, maybe for me. Maybe, I don't know, Dallas, in Texas, or Vegas, maybe probably for Canelo.
I think it's not so much the more popular fighter going in the ring. I think it's the more popular fighter going out of the ring. And if Gennady gets the victory September 16th, I think he'll become the most popular fighter in the sport. If you can beat a proven champion like Canelo, such a marketing draw, that just takes Gennady's career to a different level. And I think what he was saying before is that he's fought in New York, I think 6 times now. So in New York, he would be more popular than Canelo. In Las Vegas, since Canelo has fought there many times, Canelo, is probably more popular in Las Vegas. So it just depends. In the UK, if you take Triple G to the UK, I mean, the boxing fans love him over there, and he's more popular in the UK, for example. So it just depends on the market, but that's what brings this international flavor to this event.
Great. Well, thank you very much. I wish you all the best.
Thank you very much.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
No, I was going to add a little bit to that, but being a Latin, being a Mexican, I think that we just enjoy a good fight. In the base, the Latin base or the Mexican base that Canelo has and the Golovkin have, as long as they put up the kind of fight that we expect as Mexicans or as Latins, I think we're going to be happy with whomever wins, and we're going to support both.
Great. I really appreciate it. Thanks, guys. All the best.
Cynthia, I think we have time for one more questioner. We'll get a few questions in from the last person, and then we'll wrap it up.
And our next question comes from Rob Huff with FightNews.com. You may begin.
Thank you, and good morning. Triple G sounds like he's on a spaceship out near Jupiter, but we'll take a shot at it, and maybe Abel can help out with this question because it relates to him as well. Gennady looked fantastic at the event in Los Angeles, but as we all know, 35 isn't 30, it's not 25. Can the fighter and the trainer talk about how his body is different at 35, how it feels different in training, and how the training is different from how it was 5, 6, 7 years ago?
Yeah, thank you very much for your compliment. Yeah. I feel great. I feel the same. Seriously, I don't know. Just my training every day, just the same. Just, my coach, just my sparring, the same, just talk, my speed, my power, I don't lose, just, I feel like 10 years ago, right now, yeah, you're right, I'm 35, I feel like 25. Maybe inside, maybe right now I'm younger than Canelo. Canelo 22. I'm 25. I feel like 25.
Abel, you want to comment on his sparring and how you see him in the gym now?
Yeah, obviously as a coach, you take into consideration the years, the age, but he's doing the same things now, harder now because he's on a different level than he was, let's just say 4 or 5 years ago. He's still working as hard as he was before, not slacking off, I'm not having to make any concessions for being 35 years old. we're doing the same things we did in the past. But about 5 or 6 fights ago, 7 fights ago, maybe I cut down the rounds of sparring. But that's really the only thing that I've done different. But then I didn't do it because of age. I did it because he just comes to camp in such a state that I don't have to abuse him in camp. I can leave a lot in him by working him less because he's in shape when he comes to camp. We're not losing 25 pounds. So it's easier for me as a coach to be able to get out of him what I need and get him ready to peak right before fight time.
And second question for both, something that Abel touched on earlier in the conversation. Hey, maybe there's, subsequent to this, upwards of 5 or 6 more defenses at middleweight. Gennady, are you comfortable with the thought of fighting for another couple, 3 years, maybe longer? Do you want to be fighting like Mr. Mayweather at the age of 40? And what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, probably. I hope so. Just right now I feel good. Probably like maybe 40, maybe 5 years more. This is boxing. Every day is difficult, dangerous, probably, one punch change life. Right now I feel great. My feet, my performance, everything is good. My family, my team support me. I feel very comfortable. Just probably, 5 years more.
I think that if we're able to secure the kind of fights that motivate him mentally, physically they're always in shape. Obviously, all great fighters like that are always in shape, but the mental part of it is so important because you have to be motivated for a fight. If Tom and the Herman brothers and the powers that be can get him the kind of fights that motivate him and want him to come back in the gym and work just as hard as he does for all fights, then yes, I could see him fighting that long. But I think if there's an if, that's the big if.
No concerns about the possible long-term effects of boxing and getting punched in the head?
No, remember, he's probably been a pro less than Canelo's been a pro. And his fight's a heck of a lot shorter than Canelo's fight. So Canelo's the one that's really got the wear and tear on him, not Golovkin. Canelo's got 49 fights. Golovkin's got, 36, 37, whatever it is that he has. And his fights have been shorter. And he turned pro in 2006. I believe Canelo's been a pro a little bit longer than he has. So, no, we don't have the long periods of training camps like we used to for the other fighters. That helps, and then his fight being shorter helps. If he's motivated to fight on in another 3 or 4 years, then he should. If he doesn't have it in him, then he should. But I think that if we do good on the 16th, I think the public will ask for him to fight on it, and as long as he keeps fighting the way that I know he can, the public will keep asking for that. Hopefully, Tom can put those together.
Hey, good stuff. I appreciate some thoughtful and candid answers. Best fortune on the 16th.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Before we wrap up, just a reminder that HBO Sports will be airing the special Under the Lights Canelo Golovkin this Saturday evening at 10 p.m. East Coast and West Coast on HBO. And episode 2 of 24/7, Canelo Golovkin, will premiere the following week, Saturday, September 9 on HBO, immediately following Tom's terrific card with all the super flyweights at StubHub Center. Tom, any last comments before we head to trainer and fighter?
I tell you, we can't be more excited about this fight. It's really the crescendo of. We've had a banner year for boxing in 2017, even with the Mayweather-McGregor fight. I mean, it just the spotlight that's been shown on the sport of boxing has never been brighter, or not for a long time, than we've seen this year. And this really seems to be the main event of the year. So we're excited about this fight. Fred, as you mentioned, the Superfly show, September 9th. Don't miss that. That'll be on HBO with the second airing of 24/7. And this is really this is the fight that everyone on the Triple G side has been working hard for. We give Canelo a lot of credit. We give the Golden Boy side a lot of credit for being extremely cooperative with the co-promotion, the MGM properties up in Las Vegas, and just looking forward to Gennady's premiere in not only in Las Vegas but at the T-Mobile arenas, one of the most premier arenas around the world. And naturally, we can't leave out HBO. It's just been a tremendous partner for Gennady's career, and very thankful for all their support.
Thanks, Tom. Abel, any last words? And do you still feel like you're 25 like Gennady does?
Not after he hits the mitts with me. Not after he pounds on my shoulders. No, I feel that we're training very hard to be well prepared to give the fans, not to disappoint the fans, and to give the fans the kind of fight that they expect from us. I know Canelo is training just as hard, so hopefully that night will be a magic night for boxing and for all of us.
Thanks, Abel. Gennady, we'll let you have the final word. Any last words to the media?
Yes, of course, yeah. Thank you very much, everybody. I respect boxing. If you respect boxing like me, watch my fight, September 15 in HBO. Just welcome to my fight.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thank you, Gennady, Abel. Thank you, Tom. And just a reminder, live on pay-per-view at a special time. It'll be 8 p.m. East Coast, 5 o'clock West Coast on Saturday, September 16th, live on HBO pay-per-view. We look forward to seeing everybody out there fight week, and thank you again for joining us today.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This concludes today's conference.